April 1st, 2026, a day for fools, but at Buckingham Palace the mood is far from lighthearted. The golden bridge that King Charles III reportedly extended to his youngest son for a private summit at Balmoral on April 20th has not just been walked over. It has been rigged with administrative explosives. Today, we can reveal the true nature of the negotiations that took place behind closed doors throughout March 2026. What was meant to be a grandfather's simple wish to see his grandchildren, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, has been transformed by Meghan Markle and Prince Harry into a high-stakes commercial and legal shakedown. The term is not ours. It first surfaced in the high society columns of The Sun and The Times earlier this year. But following Harry's crushing legal defeat in late March 2026, the rhetoric has sharpened dramatically. Having lost his final appeal against the Home Office to regain automatic taxpayer-funded police protection, Harry has pivoted entirely. Insiders confirm that the Montecito machine has issued a chilling ultimatum: no security, no grandchildren. Through sources close to the couple and strategic leaks to the Sunday Times, the narrative has been carefully set. Harry claims he hopes to receive an invitation to Sandringham or Balmoral, but in the same breath he asserts that it is impossible to bring his family to British soil without a full diplomatic-grade security detail. To the palace, this isn't about safety. It's a strategic maneuver to force the king to override the British government, a move that would trigger a constitutional crisis. A senior palace source speaking to the Daily Mail described the king's reaction as one of profound emotional distress. Charles, currently navigating his own health battles during cancer recovery, sees his grandchildren being used as human shields in a war over status. The king views this not as a safety concern, but as a calculated threat designed to extract concessions that the British courts have already denied. While the public was focused on the security dispute, a much more significant document was being exchanged between lawyers. Meghan Markle, through a high-powered legal team in Los Angeles, has reportedly submitted a 15-page list of conditions that must be met before Archie and Lilibet even board a plane. This document, described by royal aides as outrageous and delusional, outlines a series of demands that go far beyond basic travel arrangements. It is a blueprint for what palace insiders are calling a commercial invasion of the monarchy. The first and perhaps most audacious demand involves the children's travel documents. Meghan has reportedly insisted that Archie and Lilibet's British passports be amended to feature the titles Prince and Princess, not merely as observations in the official notes section, but as a primary component of the children's legal names in the machine-readable zone of their British passports. Furthermore, they have demanded the inclusion of an official diplomatic endorsement, a status usually reserved for working royals on state business. To the British government, this is a logistical nightmare. To the royal family, it is a transparent power play. By securing diplomatic passport status, the Sussexes would effectively bypass the very security rulings Harry just lost in court. A diplomatic passport carries inherent international protections and privileges that would force the UK and US governments to provide a level of automatic security that Harry's private lawsuits failed to achieve. A source within the Home Office revealed they are trying to use the children's identity to circumvent the High Court's ruling. If the children are diplomatic entities, the taxpayer is on the hook for their protection, regardless of their non-working status. Prince William viewed this specific demand as a Trojan horse for commercial expansion. By securing these titles in a high-status diplomatic format, the Sussexes would effectively have a government-stamped brand, allowing them to market their children as official royal entities for upcoming lifestyle ventures and documentary sequels. A source close to the Prince of Wales remarked, "William sees this as a blatant violation of the Sandringham Agreement. You cannot be half in, half out when it comes to using the Crown's sovereignty to sell organic jams or Netflix specials. The second demand has left veteran courtiers breathless and the British public in a state of disbelief. According to high-level sources within the Duchy of Lancaster, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have formally requested the King establish a compensation trust fund of £20 million for Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. The logic presented in the manifesto argues that because the children were deprived of their royal environment, their security, and their natural peer group within the British aristocracy, they have suffered a quantifiable loss of status and future earnings. The £20 million is framed not as a gift, but as back pay for birthright. Prince William is reportedly incandescent with rage over this specific demand. Insiders suggest he has characterized it as a grandchild ransom. The implication is unmistakable. If the King wants to play the role of a doting grandfather on April 20th at Balmoral, he must first sign a check that acknowledges the trauma his institution inflicted on the Sussex offspring. The third demand requires the royal family to fund a private team of U.S.-based pediatricians, psychologists, and educational trauma consultants to travel with the family and remain on site at Balmoral. Meghan has reportedly stated she does not trust the British medical or educational systems, which she views as rigid and archaic. The palace interprets this demand as a direct insult to the King's own medical staff, some of the finest physicians in the world. A palace aide remarked, "They are suggesting that the King's home is so toxic that children need a phalanx of therapists just to have lunch with their grandfather. It's not about health, it's about control and narrative building. If they bring their own experts, they control the psychological report that will inevitably be leaked to the press later." The fourth demand strikes at the constitutional core of the monarchy, the restoration of the HRH, His and Her Royal Highness, designation. Though Archie and Lilibet are legally prince and princess, the King has pointedly withheld the HRH style. In their leaked communications, Meghan argues that without the HRH prefix, her children are second-class royals, making them easy targets for both physical threats and media intrusion. Meghan's lawyers have gone as far as to suggest that the King's refusal to grant HRH status is a form of institutional bullying. However, the palace's counter-argument is rooted in constitutional law. The HRH title is a style of the sovereign granted to those who represent the Crown in an official capacity. To grant it to children living permanently in a foreign republic who do not serve the British people would be a constitutional absurdity. The fifth demand has been labeled by palace aides as the ultimate insult to the Crown service. Meghan, through her high-powered Hollywood legal team, has demanded that every single member of the King's personal staff, from the executive chefs to the Highland Gillies and even the King's private physicians, sign a specialized NDA. This document is not the standard Official Secrets Act that all royal employees already adhere to. Instead, it is a restrictive California-style contract that would grant Meghan and Harry absolute image and narrative control over the children's visit. The legal language prohibits staff from discussing not just the children's words or actions, but their emotional state or reactions to the royal environment. A senior courtier remarked, "Meghan is demanding that only her hand-picked photographers be allowed near the children. She wants the copyright to the King's private moments as a grandfather, so she can sell them back to the highest bidder." Behind these 5 demands lies a deeply ingrained psychological strategy. Harry and Meghan have perfected what psychologists call systemic scapegoating. In their worldview, every failure, from the cancellation of Meghan's Pearl series to the lukewarm reception of Harry's latest Polo documentary to the collapse of their multi-million-dollar Spotify deal, is the direct result of institutional sabotage by the palace machine. Meghan's legal team has used the word refugee to describe the children's status in California, creating a legal pretext for compensation. In Meghan's eyes, the king isn't just a father, he is the CEO of a corporation that wrongfully terminated their benefits. The victimhood doctrine operates on a devastating formula. Every refusal by the king is repackaged as an act of aggression against two innocent children. Refusal of titles equals identity erasure. Refusal of funds equals institutional cruelty. Refusal of security equals child endangerment. By equating titles and diplomatic passports with safety, Meghan makes any refusal by the king look like an act of child endangerment. Meanwhile, a subtle but lethal smear campaign has begun painting Charles as a stingy king, a monarch who spends millions on coronations and palace renovations but refuses to provide basic safety for his own grandchildren. But the monarchy did not break. The Iron Guard held firm. Princess Anne emerged as the strategist of the zero-tolerance policy, standing firm against any concessions. Why, Anne's stance is clear. The monarchy is a covenant of service, not a branding asset for a California startup. A source close to the Princess Royal stated, Anne sees this as a protection racket. She has made it clear that if the king pays a single penny into this compensation trust, it will be seen as an admission of guilt. It would validate the narrative that the monarchy is racist and toxic. Anne will not let that happen. Prince William moved toward a zero-contact stance. He privately told the king that any summit on April 20th that includes American mediators or lawyers is a non-starter. He reportedly warned that any future attempt by Harry to use the children as leverage will be met with a permanent removal of their remaining titles. Queen Camilla, who has watched the toll this emotional blackmail has taken on her husband's health, reportedly reached her breaking point. Sources close to the Queen indicate she has characterized the demands as predatory and cruel. She has told the king that Archie and Lilibet are the innocent victims of their parents' ambition, not the palace's protocols. The final blow came in the early hours of March 31st. Sources within the Privy Council confirmed that Princess Anne played a decisive role in drafting the king's final response. The message delivered to the Sussex legal team was not a counter-offer. It was a decree of finality. Every single condition was rejected. The £20 million trust fund, denied. The passport amendments, denied. The staff NDAs, denied. The HRH restoration, denied. The American medical team, denied. See, the Home Office officially ruled that titles like Prince and Princess cannot be used as commercial branding tools or diplomatic shortcuts to bypass security rulings. A source close to the Princess Royal stated, "He has chosen the integrity of the monarchy over the convenience of a family reunion. He will not be the first king in history to be held to ransom by his own son." The April 20th summit at Balmoral, once whispered as the Great Reconciliation, is now being described by palace aides as a deceased project. The emotional hostage strategy using Archie and Lilibet as bargaining chips has backfired completely. The public sees a grandfather undergoing cancer treatment being pressured with a corporate-style demand letter. The Sussexes now find themselves with no security deal, no trust fund, no diplomatic passports, no HRH titles, and no family visit. They have traded a grandfather's love for a legal battle, and in doing so, they have lost both. The king's message remains simple. The king's love is unconditional, but his treasury is not. The crown is not for sale.